Right. So I am Walela, and I'm a buyer and curator at large, and I help manage the brick and mortar on 53rd. And we all know that the Silver Room was founded in 1997 by Mr. Eric Williams himself. Yes. And it's a Chicago institution. Yeah. And a neighbor to the world. It's a global center for music, art, and culture, and all things international commerce. You know what I'm saying? So we are still staying strong during these crazy times. It is such a blessing to be here with all of y'all this evening. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So tonight's moderator is Duane Powell, and if you don't know him, let's get started with a small intro of this powerhouse. And so music, Duane's love for music started at a very young age in Chicago. Uh, South, are you from the South Side, Duane?
On the South Side all day.
Cool, cool. In the 70s. And his uncles were DJs, and they went to school with or were friends with Minnie Riperton, Shaka Khan, Staple Singers, and the Emotions. Oh, and what was the last one? Yeah, I got everybody? Yes. So we're going to fast forward. You could read the rest of the bio on DuanePowell.com, but we're going to fast forward to his time at Dr. Wax, if you're familiar with Dr. Wax. He was there for 12 years, and that's where he got the quote unquote tastemaker label. He was a buyer. He was basically the head, in charge. And so that's where I met him very, very many years ago. So applaud him. And then he opened up his brand called Sound Rotation. So again, busy being a DJ, a promoter, and all things music. So without further ado, I'm gonna pass the mic to Mr. Powell so he can introduce our distinguished guest and get this convo started. So welcome again, y'all, and peace.
Thank you so much, Walela.
You're welcome, babe.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me. I've been a part of this community for quite some time. My years in the house community started in 1983, actually. And then by 1985, I was doing street promotions for Diamond Corp, Gucci, and all these people. And I'm excited to have this conversation with two guys right now who took all of my money in the mid 80s, all of my money running to imports and Loop Records and JR's Music Room and Evergreen Plaza to get every release that was coming out, and not even knowing sometimes that it was the same producer under an alias. Mr. Vince Lawrence and Mr. Marshall Jefferson, two of house music pioneers. Yeah, I believe Marshall might be on his way in. We're going to start with Vince. What's up, Vince? How's it going?
I'm good. I see Marsh there. Marsh is there.
Okay.
And yeah, he's driving from Best Buy currently. He had a printer emergency. But so we're both here. It's pretty funny. Marshall and I's stories kind of parallel.
I'm gonna hang out here for a
our stories kind of paralleled at the beginning, because we were both hanging out in the clubs wanting to make records.
Well, I'm going to start with you because this is the one thing I do want to distinguish in this talk, is that a lot of times, especially for outside of our insular bubbles of Chicago, people don't understand the difference between house culture and house music as a genre. And a lot of times, they want to, first of all, like we had a question already sent that wanted to know the answer to why does it call it house music? Was it because of the music that was being played at the warehouse, right? But the word, when we started using the word house, the warehouse was already closed.
Yes, it was actually, it wasn't closed, it was near closing. The first time I heard the term house music, strangely enough, it wasn't at the warehouse, it was at the playground. Mm-hmm. Jesse was DJing at the playground, and at the time I was doing lights. And Reggie Corner, I don't know if you guys know Reggie Corner.
The Way We Were promoter.
Yes, Reggie Corner and Haynes came up to the booth to tell Farley, "Yo, Farley, play that house shit." And they were saying that in reference to play that music that you hear at the warehouse because the playground is about to close at 3 a.m. basically. And we're all going to the warehouse afterwards. So play that house music, play that house shit, Farley. And that was the first time I heard it. I asked Farley what the fuck they were talking about. He says, "Oh, like the music they play at the warehouse." And I might have been 18 at the time, 17 or 18. And for us, the warehouse was the ultimate party. There were rumors of acid in the punch and all sorts of goings on, behind the speakers and so on and so forth. And it was the best party ever. So everybody was, mostly because it was open until 7 or 8 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And after all of the other teen juice bars closed, some people would go on to continue partying and go to the warehouse. I had to get home because I was already probably in trouble.
Right.
But that's what it was. So that was the first time.
For reference, what years this was?
Oh, it had to be.
We're talking 83 or so?
82.
Okay.
82. Because I was out of high school maybe a year. And yeah, it was 82.
Okay.
So that was the first time I heard the term house music.
Okay. Because I guess what I want to start with you as well is because you've had a relationship with Chicago music for quite a while through your dad. You just had a documentary recently that aired on WTTW. And I also know that, the infamous disco demolition in Chicago, which there's always the stream of thought that house rose from the ashes of the death of disco or whatever.
I don't want to give how do I say this?
It's not true to me. So
I don't want to give a racist book burning the credit.
Right. No, it's right. And plus what I brought that up to say was like, you've been at all these major events. Vince worked at Comiskey Park the night of the disco demolition.
So does that make me the Forrest Gump of the house music story? So does that make me Forrest Gump? I was just, at all of these, happen to be there at all of these historic events.
Because I'm just wondering how much all of that played a role into you going into production and going into everything. So let's get started with that. How did you go into production?
Well, for me, let's see, I'll tell the story. I'll try to tell it as succinctly as possible. My dad, I wanted to go to summer camp. I was just a regular 14-year-old kid, and my friends were going to go to summer camp, and I wanted to go to summer camp with my friends. I asked my dad for money for summer camp. He said, Dad, son, I can't afford to send you to summer camp this year, but we're going to find something for you to do. And my dad's dear friend is a man by the name of Eddie Thomas, who was a famous record executive from Curtom Record and Thomas and Associates Promotion. And he ran one of the first Black record pools in the country called the Dogs of War.
Mm.
Eddie said, I know what we're going to do. We're going to put him on the tour bus with Captain Sky, who was a funk artist. And they decided that's what I was going to do for that 2 weeks. I was going to go on tour with Captain Sky. So I went on tour with Captain Sky as the pyrotechnician. Joe might find that funny. But I was a pyrotechnician on tour with the funk band. And you guys have Google in front of you. You guys can just Google the words Captain Sky and hit images, and you'll see what that was like.
So shout out to Dad, Miss Lawrence, for instead of summer camp, send him on tour.
So he sent me on tour. And when I came back, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be in music, and I knew I wanted to work with synthesizers. because that was the most interesting instrument on the stage to me. And it was synthesizers were a combination of two of my current loves, music and science. And that's what I wanted to do. So I straight ahead said, okay, I got to get a synthesizer. And my dad said, well, you better start saving your money for your paper route. And I'm like, well, I don't have a paper route. I'm going to get a job. And I got a job as an usher, taking people to their seats at ball games and concerts. So I thought it was like basically they were paying me to do stuff I was going to do. I was willing to do anyway. I got to go to concerts free. I saw Michael Jackson off the wall. I saw ABBA. I got to see Chic. And I saw Earth, Wind, and Fire when they were doing the big Magic show. I saw Kiss, Electric Light Orchestra. I mean, a lot of Oklahoma.
Okay.
But I got to see all of these shows as an usher, taking people to their seats at concerts and ball games. And, I was at the White Sox game that day that Disco Demolition happened. But that was because I was trying to save up. It was a double shift, and I was trying to save up money to get my first synthesizer. From there, I guess I have to give my dad even more credit in the sense that I got that synthesizer, and for graduation, he asked me what I wanted for graduation. I said I wanted studio time so that I can go record my first record. And I put a little band together, and we rehearsed for weeks, knowing that we were going to go into the studio. And we went in the studio to record our song. And what's interesting about that is my drummer was very excited. And we rehearsed this song called Fast Cars. And we went in the studio with a metronome set at 120. But our drummer was so excited about being in a real live recording studio for the first time that he probably played the thing at 140.
Oh, wow.
So what would have been a good solid dance record became a new wave record by default, because studio time was very expensive, and we didn't get to go back after we did it. After we did
so this is Z Factor?
This is Z Factor, Fast Cars.
Okay.
So the record was written at 120, but recorded at 140. And then my dad said, well, what should we do next? I'm like, well, we don't want to put out a 45, Dad. We've got to put it out on a 12-inch disc, because all of the DJs are playing the disco mix of all of these different songs. And he says, so what are we going to do? I'm like, well, we should try to get Kenny Jason from WDAI to help us with the disco mix. So Kenny Jason did our remix, worked on the mix with us. And that was my first record, Fast Cars. Needless to say, it got some airplay on DAI because Kenny played it. And because Kenny was playing it, it was pretty easy for my dad to get it, my dad and Eddie, of course, to get it on WGCI. And I played my first gig at 17. Yeah, no, at 16. No, 16 or 17. 17. I played my first gig at a place on Belmont and Sheffield called Tuts.
Wow.
It was a pretty exciting time. The record had gotten, a review in the Illinois Entertainer. And, I don't know. I was pretty excited about that record. I took it to every teen dance that I knew about.
So let's fast forward just a little bit to you meeting Jesse and you guys forming your partnership and what came of that, because that is one of the historic things that we need to talk about.
Well, I met Jesse at the playground. I had gotten a gig there doing lights. And, I was helping out. I was passing out flyers in the, during the week and doing lights on the weekend. And basically, again, it was another one of those jobs that I took because, hey, I got to get in the party free. And, I'm doing lights with Jesse, and I just, really started really loving this music, and we started talking and stuff. And I'm like, Jesse, I got a synthesizer. at home and I make music too. And I made my own record. And he says, you made your own record? I'm like, yeah, I'll bring it. And I brought the record the next weekend to the party, and Jesse played it, and all the little new wave Spy Guy guys, they danced to it. It was cool. And, I was like, wow, and Jesse said, that's pretty cool. I'm like, Jesse, you're a pretty popular DJ. We could probably, start playing our band could probably start playing around if you join the band. So Jesse said, yeah, I'll join the band, and I've got some songs. And he had some ideas about songs, and we managed to get a Roland TR 808. Well, let me go back. We had a 60, we started rehearsing in my garage, and we had a problem with our drummer.
Is this the same drummer that played too fast?
Different drummer by then, but he came from the West Side, so he was always late, or sometimes he couldn't make it, so on and so forth. And we got a Mattel Sensonics drum machine, a toy, and we would use the Sensonics to kind of replace the drummer until he got there. And after a while, we realized that the Sensonics sounded better out of the PA than the drummer. So we stopped asking them to come. And we got that evolved. We got a better drum machine. It was a Dramatics, the Roland 606. And we got its partner, the Roland TB303, the bass line. And we started writing all these songs. And we had like a kind of reggae song, a new wave song, some slow jam. And we had all these freestyle song. And we made, this series of songs that we called an album. And that was the Z Factor Dance Party album. My dad got us some more studio time. We recorded all of these songs. By the time we got to the studio, we had gotten a better drum machine, the Roland TR 808. And we got that machine because we heard the sounds. It was the same sounds that was on Nucleus, Jam on It. And we're like, we got to have that machine. And we got that machine, and, we made these songs, and we went and recorded them. Now, we were really, really, really excited about Fantasy. My dad had a friend his name was Louis Pitsley. And Louis Pitsley had a clothing store called The House of Louis, where he sold basically jeans. I think the store was either on Wells or on Rush Street. And Louis was, he was a big purveyor of designer jeans at the beginning of the designer jeans craze. And Louis had a friend that was a big time entertainment lawyer, this guy named J.B. Ross. And my dad met J.B. Ross through Louis, and we were looking for a female singer to sing that song. And Jay represented this lady, Screaming Rachel. And Screaming Rachel came to our session, and she sang the song. And then that was the song that became Fantasy, and we couldn't wait to put it out. And for some reason, my dad just took forever getting the record out, like 3 months or something like that. And in our impatience, Jesse and I decided to make another record because we couldn't wait for him. We had got our sound right by then. We didn't have no drummer no more, and we had our thing tight. And we said, well, let's make another record and put it out ahead of time, right away, because we could put it out ourselves. And we made a song called On and On. And to go along with On and On, because Jesse was trying to make a record that he could manipulate and play records on top of and stuff like that, like Mix Your Own Stars and all these other drum drops and all these other records that were just beats that they were playing in between songs at the parties. So we made our own versions of popular ones like 117 and so on and so forth. So we put those on the backside, and we went and pressed this record up. We went to the pressing plant where we had pressed up Fast Cars. And ordered some records. So we ordered the minimum amount of records that you could order, which was like 1,000. And we were off to the races. We got those records. We started playing those records at all the parties, and we were feeling ourselves. We were going to everybody else's parties, going like, yo, put this on the deck. We're going to give you a free promo. And guys would play the record, and then like the crowd would go kind of crazy. And because Jesse was playing at the Playground, which was one of the larger team parties, the record caught on all over the city. And the Playground would have regular guests like the Hot Mix 5 or Farley or Steve Hurley. Each week they'd have a different guest DJ, and we'd just give them the record. Well, Farley started playing the record on the radio. And, then when we put the record on, people in every party we went to went crazy. And we were trying to sell the records at the concession stand at the Playground, but nobody really wanted to carry around a 12-inch disc.
Right.
So it was kind of hard to sell records at a party. We kind of said, man, we don't know what's going to come next. And that very weekend, Jesse had to go get records because he DJed. So we went to Imports, etc., to get the records. And the guy, Frank Sells, was there. This is Doctor's Cat, Feel the Drive. It has an accentuating synthesizer line in the intro that everyone recognizes. And he put the record on, and the DJs would put their hand up like, hey, I want that record. I want that record. And I watched this happen 3 or 4 times. I had never been to Imports. And I said, And I came back. I ran out to the car. I came back and I went to Frank and I said, hey, put this on. And he's like, what's this? I'm like, just put it on. You'll see. And I looked at Jesse and said, watch him go crazy when they play this record. So he put the On and On track on, and every DJ immediately put their hands up. He goes, we've been looking for this record. Where did you find it? And I proudly said, we made it. And Frank Sells looked at me, what do you mean you made it? I'm like, well, that's my handwriting on the label. We made it. And he says, well, would you like to sell us some? And I was very excited. I was like, wow, okay, it's going to be, this is easier than the Playground. And I said, sure. He said, well, how much do you want for them? And I thought to myself, we paid roughly $1.10 for those records. And records wholesale, I knew this from, the Dogs of War and hanging out at the pool meetings and stuff like that. Records wholesale were selling for about $2.30.
So it was $1 to press each?
About $1 each, yeah.
Wow.
So I thought to myself, I said, well, we got those 4 beat tracks on the back. I wonder if we could say it's an EP, because that's $4.30. That's $4.30 for an EP. And it's not really an album, but it is an EP. And I turned to Frank and I was like, okay, look, you can have them for $4. How many do you want? And he says, well, how many do you have? I'm like, no. How many do you want? I'm thinking to myself, I got 1,000 in the car. How many is he going to want? 50? And he's like, no. How many do you have? And I'm like, well, I got 1,000 in my car. How many do you want? And he says, we'll take them all. And I looked at Jesse, and we very quietly walked out to the car. We got a dolly, and we loaded up all the records on the dolly. We pushed the dolly in. We took the top box upstairs, and we met Paul Weisberg, and we talked about it. And he said, where did you get these records? I guess he thought they might have been stolen. I explained that was my handwriting. Jesse Records was named after Jesse Saunders, and it was my handwriting that did the logo that we made the record. And Paul wrote us a check for $4,000. And Jesse and I left, and we got in the car, and after screaming, I said, once this check clears, fuck parties, man. We in the record business now.
So just so everybody that's listening, that's tuned in, who may not know the history, I see quite a few legends in the chat, like DJ Celeste Alexander, amongst others, who don't know. On and On is documented as being the first official house record in production.
So So we made this record. We sold him this record, and then the first thing we did was we went home and I got out the Yellow Pages, and I picked every record store in the city of Chicago and wrote them on a list. And we made it a point to drive to every single last one of them and say, we've got this record. It's playing on the Hot Mix 5 Saturday Night Live Ain't No Jive show. And that, maybe you can sell them. And after a while, we found all the stores where the kids who were listening to that show all over the city were going. And that's basically how we started our business.
So let's cut a little bit, because now I'm jumping a little bit because I'm trying to be mindful of time. We have to, of course, jump into Trax Records and bring our brother into this conversation. Trax Records.
Well, we were making so many records that we were making so many songs in our studio, our little basement studio. We were making so many songs that we couldn't press them up faster. We couldn't afford to press them. So I made a deal with the guy who owned the pressing plant that, hey, if you press these records up, we'll go sell them and we'll split the money. And he says, well, how do I know your records from my records and the records that we're partnering together? I said, well, we're going to start a separate label just for the records that we're splitting. And I want to call it Trax. And at the time, I was listening to a synthesizer band, go figure, an all synthesizer band called Ministry.
Yes.
They had a song called Primental, which blew my fucking mind.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, there's nothing fake. There's nothing real. There's nothing organic in this whole composition. And it was just an instrumental at the time, but it was amazing synthesizer work. I thought it was from the future, but it wasn't from the future. It was from a label called Wax Trax Records, located on the north side. And we had done some transfers and some beginning recordings at a place called Chicago Trax. And I just thought that Trax was a cool ass name. So I wasn't Chicago Trax, it wasn't Wax Trax, it was just Trax. But, I designed the label to have block, bold type, like the kind of a nod to the industrial movement that was going on. Instead of, I knew that DJs were always clamoring for white labels and that everybody had all these white labels in their crates. And I said, well, I'm going to make my label black so that you can tell them apart really easy. So we did the label in reverse, and, pretty much that was it. Trax was off. We made a record called Wanna Dance. And we made up a name because we were fans of Trevor Horn, called Le Noise, kind of a nod to the art of noise. And that was that. But getting to the good part of this story, I was hanging out at the Music Box because I would go to clubs at night and go to record stores in the daytime. And that's where I met Marshall Jefferson, who was hanging out. He was, working the late shift at the post office and partying afterwards. And Marshall and his crew, they were just electric. Sleazy.
Yeah, Marshall, I used to cut a rug or jacket.
Sleazy D,
God rest his soul,
was just an amazing, crazy person. These guys were the life of the party, for me at least. Plus they were straight, and there weren't a whole bunch of straight people hanging out at the Music Box, but they were straight, so we would talk and hang out, and that was that. Marsh, you could take it from there.
Well, I thought I drove down to Trax Records and met you there.
I think I had met you, Byron, and those guys at the Music Box prior to that.
It wasn't me because I worked midnight to 8:30 a.m.
So then maybe it wasn't.
Right.
So so the first
hours, right? I was able to go to see the first time I met you. You were at Trax Records, and you told me everything. You showed me the ropes and everything. First time I met you, you were a big shot at Trax Records. Well, it wasn't Trax Records then; it was Precision, right? But I saw the address on on some record label, and I drove down there, and I was talking to you about stuff. You told me about something called a Yamaha QX1. Now, what happened was the very next day, a friend of mine needed a ride to Guitar Center, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I drove to Guitar Center. Salesman there was saying, now keep in mind, I was working at the post office there. Email wasn't in sight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, the salesman started talking about the Yamaha QX1. I said, wow, that's what Vince was talking about, right? So, dude says, yeah, with this Yamaha QX1, you could play keyboards like Stevie Wonder, even if you don't know how to play at all, right? So I'm like, wow, man, I got to get this thing, right? So I can be like Jesse and Vince, right? So got the QX1, I'm ready to walk up the door. But, he'd given me like a $10,000 credit line. And then, he wasn't going to let me leave just buying the QX1. He said, wait a minute. Huh? He said, that's a sequencer. If you don't have a keyboard, you won't hear anything. It plays keyboards. I said, oh, yeah, you're right. Right? So I bought the keyboard, right? And he said, hey, you need a drum machine, right? Oh, yeah, I do need a drum machine, right? So I got the drum machine, right? I said, yeah, you know what? You need a mixer, right? I said, no, I'm a DJ. I already got a mixer. He said, no, you need a recording mixer. You need this Boss 8-channel mixer, right? I said, oh, yeah, I need a recording mixer. That's what I need. Since I make records, I need the recording mixer, right? Then he said, you need a 4-track recorder so you could record an instrument on every track, multi-track. Yeah, that's what I need. I need a recorder.
This is all in one visit.
This is all in one visit, man. Right? So I bought all this stuff. The last thing he sold me was this thing he couldn't give them away. Remember, Vince? It was like a TV 303 for $150, right? He said, yeah, with this you can make bass lines. Yeah, that's what I want to do, make bass lines.
They had a slide feature on there that was supposed to emulate the slide of a guy rolling his finger down the bass. It was horrible.
Yep. So I bought all this stuff. I take it all home. My friend was he was nice enough to tell my other friends. They came and, man, they talked about me for like 5 hours, man. I felt like I was 2 inches tall, man. Right? I mean, because when black people sing on you, man, it's like just treacherous, man. It's like horrible, man. So I'm like, oh, man. But wrote my first song 2 days later, right? And then I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to get Vince to produce my record, my first record and stuff, right? So that's when Vince produced my first record, Virgo Go Wild Rhythm Tracks, and the rest is history. I had Move Your Body out about a year and some change later, and I'm telling you, people started hiring keyboard players and telling them to play piano like Marshall Jefferson.
Yeah, so let's go into that because I know Vince, when you initially started Trax Records, you intended that label to be a label, like you said, mimicking after the electronic industry that you were hearing. And you wanted that to be designed for Trax, yet Move Your Body came, and it was this song that's credited as being the first house song that had piano.
Marshall.
It wasn't really like that at the time. I mean, it was just another song when it first came out. I mean, nobody was saying it was the first piano record when it came out. As a matter of fact, even though we recorded it like in September of '85, I think Love Can't Turn Around came out before it, and Love Can't Turn Around had piano on it.
It might. I don't think that Love Can't Turn Around came out before Move Your Body, but certainly Funk You Up and Real Love had come out.
Right.
Yeah. And also
I want to
Undercover.
get some more into how that you.
Yeah, Undercover by Dr. Derelict. You know, we had a bunch of records out at the time. Marshall had made that beat track, and they were going like hotcakes. People were going crazy about the Virgo tracks, the particular one particular track on there. And I was down for doing whatever Marshall wanted to do.
Well, what happened was Vince and Jesse were kind of a roadblock. Move Your Body took like 8 months. It was because Larry was concentrating on. He was Vince and Jesse were the kings of tracks at that time, you know, and he was just doing, he was just focused on them, and we, you know, what happened was Vince and Jesse got and went to California, and you know, and got a lot of money, and they kind of left house music behind. Now, simultaneously, that's when house music blew up. That's when all those reporters came to Chicago to talk about house music, you know, because by then we had like Chippy had its house out, you know, Time to Jack, all this stuff about house music and Move Your Body. Got to have house music, right? So they all came to Chicago, and about 10 of them from different magazines, and they're interviewing everybody about house music. Vince and Jesse were gone.
So
they were in California, man. They had,
what year was this? 1980?
So that's
was it 1985?
86, right?
86.
It was 86.
I was actually in London. Half of that year I spent in London.
Everybody was getting interviewed about house music except the guys that started it, Vince and Jesse, right? And so that's why they're left out of a lot of history, because they missed that original wave of reporters that all, you know, that like stampeded Chicago when house music first got popular. So that, you know, so they missed the boat, even though they did get a lot of money from Geffen, you know. Yeah, they got a lot of money from Geffen, but like they missed the house music train. You know, I wish they would have stayed a little bit longer and see what they would have come up with house-wise.
Well, the thing about it was, at the time, honestly, Marsh, the reason I left the record pressing plant, let's just say that, was because I had helped build this record pressing plant, and I had established a national distribution network for the label, and so on and so forth. And I really wasn't able to make a good living for myself. So I saw some opportunities in California and in the UK to do remixes of other people's songs.
Dude, you signed to Geffen and got hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nobody's blaming you for that. I mean,
I'm saying at the time it was just really about like being able to support myself different. I went to New York several times, and I was hanging out with people over at Tommy Boy and stuff like that. Like, you know, I had been over there, and I met a couple, what's his name, Eddie O'Loughlin from Next Plateau, and labels like that. And they were just saying that artists were treated differently in other places. So I went to New York, I went to LA, I went to London. We had went to Detroit before that to try to find opportunities to work with people in different ways there. The managers and the record labels that were the official labels in Chicago really wanted nothing to do with us. they didn't think that the music that we were making was very good at all. So like the red labels, there's Red Label that was that had put out the Super Bowl Shuffle, and a bunch of other local labels. They just really wanted nothing to do with us. So I just was trying to find a place where we could grow to maybe be like a Africa Bambaataa or somebody like that.
So
that was, really
was it a situation of you now? Then there was time to make this thing not be so insular and expand. I know like right now I know there's there's I think there's a lawsuit with Robert Owens and the label and stuff like that. Was it a situation of just kind of being young and not understanding contractual things, and then just kind of moving on?
Yeah, I mean, it was that, and I wanted to get a manager to try to, help us grow, and we really couldn't get a manager. So I was just looking around all over the place. I did have some money from some of the records that we were selling, because we were literally going to a record store and say, I've got 1,000 copies, $4, and somebody would come and write us a check for $4,000. So we did have a little bit of money. So I was just traveling around. I don't know, I was 18, finding myself, finding out what I liked and what I didn't like.
Definitely the interesting part about all of this house culture is that, you guys were 16, 17, 18, 19, making your own records, being your own distributor, all of that kind of thing back then. That's really amazing, actually.
But Marshall made the best record.
Oh yeah.
I was five. I should have known better. I should have known better. I was 24, 25. I was just stupid for my age. I just wanted to make music, and I just wanted to get records out and get some fine girlfriends and stuff. So that was too, luck. I got the records out, I got the girls. Boom, mission accomplished. I wasn't thinking about anything outside of those.
Wow. And I mean, this song was known as so who came up with the idea? Because it was even actually on the record. This was the house national anthem.
The house music anthem is the name of the song.
Right.
I named it that because a few people, I'm not going to name names, said it wasn't house music because of the piano. So I called it the house music anthem. The term anthem is still used today to describe a song that makes you put your hands up in the air. That was very, very important, having that name anthem on that song also. And it's been used many times. That was the first time it was used in a song, I believe, on a dance song.
Okay. I remember.
No, you notice how Marshall dodged the question when I said, but Marshall made the best record.
Yeah, my first time hearing that song was at the Music Box from Ron Hardy, and I swear he played it for like a half an hour, seemed like.
Hey, Duane.
Hey.
I'm sorry. Finish your thought. What were you going to say?
Oh, I realize we can be here all day.
I know I can. But in an effort to kind of expand the conversation a bit, we're going to open up the Q&A for Vince, Marshall, and yourself. And we have a legend, Josh from The Shy. Josh, are you there? We're going to patch him in live for this one.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, go ahead and ask your question, sir. Good to have you.
Thank you. So my question is, obviously you guys are the GOATs and the OGs in the house music industry. You guys have been around for a long time. So I'm wondering nowadays, who do you guys see as the up and coming artists on the scene that are really exciting you with the next generation of music moving forward?
Well, personally, it's very hard because when I first started, it's like, what, 200, 250 records a week coming out. Now, I talk with this famous online download site. they said they were putting out 65,000 songs per week just on that site. So that's not counting iTunes and you know, and the streaming services like Spotify and Tidal. So I figure it's about 100,000 releases a week. Another thing, you would see every vinyl, for some reason, you know, it was tangible. You could see the producers on the label and stuff, right? And now you don't see the producers. You see like, you know, names, and it's just so many records, they just fly by you, right? So it's extremely hard for somebody to be up and coming now. I mean, that's why I'm still working, because nobody new can come out, because you know that if you don't have a name, nobody's going to listen to you, because as far as I know, I mean, I don't think I know anybody that can listen to 100,000 songs a week.
So what do you guys think about?
100,000 songs has to complete.
So with that, track sources being one of the main
Go ahead.
a lot of DJs use to buy music, right? What do you guys think about how the track source and places like that now have compartmentalized house, to where these all these subdivisions and how you miss songs because it's like it doesn't fall under the soulful house or Afro house or tech house, or you know what I mean? It's like there's been this whole like it's
I look at it like they're trying to organize things, you know, like some, you know, if you want like deep house, you know, okay, it's categorized. Okay, you want something harder, you know, there's a category for that, right? So they're organizing this, you know, because if you just toss 100,000 songs out there, I mean, where do you go first? You don't even know where to go. All right, so I look at them as they're organizing it for public consumption, right? So you know what to go for depending on your mood. So I can't really condemn that. I mean, you know, it makes things a little bit easier, you know. So and then they have the charts, you know, like the so-and-so chart and the so-and-so chart. So if you make something that sounds like this, it might go at the top of that chart, and you know, people may listen to it, right? While if there was just one big pool with no genres, then, you know, people wouldn't really know what to buy. So, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just too much music out now.
Can we patch in Joe Shanahan? He has can we patch him into this?
Hi, can you hear me?
Joe. So for you guys not familiar, this is Joe Shanahan, owner of the Smart Bar here in Chicago, one of Chicago's best clubs.
38 years and running. 38 years and running. We're taking a little break right now because there's this crazy pandemic going on, but we've been streaming things here and there. But I just really want to comment real quickly on this, the influence that Marshall and Vince have had globally and how it affected me personally was that I knew this music was coming out of my city, our city, you know, the city of Chicago. And it was exciting to go to Smart Bar, Medusa's on the north side, Playground Warehouse on the south side, and experience like hearing these tracks. But when I went to the Paradise Garage, or when I went to the Hacienda in Manchester and I heard the same music, I knew that we had arrived as a city, as a sound, as a force of cultural and economic sort of like currency that was not really happening in other cities. New York had its thing, of course, but we were way ahead of LA. We were way away from San Francisco. Chicago really was at the pivot of it. And I really appreciate, Vince, you talking about wax tracks as well as tracks, because there was a moment that I think that in Smart Bar specifically, that industrial and house were actually bedfellows, so to speak.
Yes, all the time.
Yeah. Oh,
You know, and that was the part of the thing, was that Ministry sounded like fast cars. And I posted earlier that like there was nobody, for everybody that's on this Zoom, no one hustled harder than Vince and Jesse. I mean, I saw them regularly coming into the DJ booth with a white label for Mark Stevens, our DJ. And going down to the warehouse to hear Frankie do his thing and hearing Marshall's music. The city arrived in such a gracious way. And I'm so glad that we're still talking about this today. Congratulations on Legacy, Vince. You got to let everybody know how to get a link to that. And in parting, I just want to say that, you know, our city is closed right now. We're on a hiatus. And when we come back, and I guarantee you we will, you know, it's going to come back with such creativity and it's bottled up to the artists right now. And I know it's coming strong. So everybody hang in there. Everyone keep their heads up, and we'll see each other on the other side.
You know, one thing I got a real kick out of was taking Cabaret Voltaire to Cabaret Metro. That was
Oh yeah.
that was so cool, man. That was
Marshall,
so cool.
Marshall, you did make a record with them at Reed's studio, right? You did the Acid Horse. Was that it?
Right.
And it was a collab between you and Cabaret Voltaire, and I think Al Jorgensen was involved in that as well. So to that point, Vince, you know,
like you said, Joe, they when we started, there was such an eclectic mix of things. Like, you know, you'd be on the South Side on 111th Street, at Mendel.
Shout out to
Kirk Townsend, and you would hear, you'd hear Ann Clark, Our Darkness, or Los Niños, Liaisons Dangerous, a French group. You would hear that along with James Brown, Body Heat. You know, it was never as like one DJ playing basically the same record every.
That's why I brought up the whole thing about the compartmentalization, because of that thing. I mean, house was created because it did pull from industrial and new wave and disco and funk. You know what I mean? And now it just seems to me that with this compartmentalization, we've gotten into this, I'm a soulful house DJ, or I'm an Afro house DJ. And that's, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's very un-Chicago.
So, you know, you asked a question about who our current favorite producers are. Right now, I have two, honestly. Well, I mean, there's some others. I guess there's a few others, but I'm listening to this guy. I'm listening to Terry Hunter and what he's doing.
I think I heard of that guy.
I'm listening to Terry Hunter, and I'm listening to a guy by the name of Ian Kirkpatrick. And Ian is making disco records in a very modern sense. And I really like his work. If you want to ask me who I'm following, who I'm like really listening to, I'm listening to this guy Ian Kirkpatrick, and really the work that Terry Hunter is doing. And I guess I'm listening to Black Coffee and Osalande a little bit, but like really I'm looking at what Terry's doing with the formation of a dance-based R&B style, and what Ian Kirkpatrick is doing with artists like Dia Lupa. Those are the different ends of the spectrum. But then I listen to so much other music. I'm listening to Imogen Heap, old records. I'm listening to Justin Bieber. I'm listening to so much music. And that's the great thing about the time that we're living in, where there's so much music, such a wide variety of styles available instantly at your fingertips. And there's so much culture blending happening that I think is wonderful, because it shows us that we're really not divided, and that like music is one thing that we can come together around and you know, shed the differences. I see guys from the hood in Inglewood working with dudes in Nashville, and you never would have thought it. You know, there's Black country all over the place, and there's white guys making drill.
Well, that was kind of what always happened in Chicago. I mean, at Chicago tracks, for instance, you know, you see like Al Jorgensen in there, and then and then in another studio would be Gavin Christopher, you know, and then in another studio would be Jesse and Vince, and another studio would be me, and then and another studio would be R. Kelly, but that we all knew each other back in the day because each other, we just talk and hang out and then go back and do our work and stuff. But man, everybody knew everybody in Chicago.
And we patch in, is it any patch in Celeste Alexander? Where are you? Can we patch her in?
Celeste Alexander.
I guess not.
No.
Hello?
Celeste, is she there?
I thought I heard. She's Celeste, you unmuted.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hey.
Hey.
Yeah.
So the world, that is the legendary DJ Celeste Alexander, one of the very first house music DJs, starting 40 years ago, Celeste?
Yeah, we're coming up on 40 years. 40 years.
Damn.
Hey.
I guess my question is hi Vince.
Hey.
My question is more for what we think futuristically, like a year down the line, 18 months down the line, when the world opens back up, because we're all just like totally locked down. I mean, there's so much music being put out, but where do you see our scenes going, or what do you see happening with our scenes once this whole COVID thing is over with? It's going to be very interesting to see how we're going to have to be able to navigate consuming, going to parties, throwing parties, DJing parties. Do you see where do you guys see it going?
Marshall, you want to
see
answer?
people looking for other revenue streams because they could. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
No, I see people going for other revenue streams. I got a few ideas, but I'm dealing with major labels now, so I'm getting by. I got a lot of projects coming out, but every single project I do, I make sure everybody gets paid, or I'm wasting their time. I've always done that. So I say find the money first before you do work, right? Make sure everyone gets paid, and that's what we have to focus on, making money, and we have to focus on youth. That's where it's going. Now, as far as performing, I'm gearing myself up. To be honest, last year I said I was going to retire. If anybody remembers that, 21.
I've been retiring for the past 20 years. I swear to God, I've been retiring. I haven't done it yet.
I think that
I had planned on quitting. I had planned on quitting like January 2021, but that's just DJing. I'm still going to be making music, and like I said, there's a few ideas that I have for making money, and I prefer to just do them first and show everybody so I can make the money first. But like, yeah, but it's a few ideas I got.
I think that this is the new normal. This conversation that we're having right now. How many people are on this call right now?
I think over the course of it, we had 300 and something, 315.
Okay, so 300 people on this call, and this is all subjects. We're all having discussions about things that we're interested in. I think that we could all probably stand up and get our boogie on if the music was right. And I think that I want to try to work towards creating platforms that bring people together in ways that are biologically safe. Because COVID is not going anywhere anytime soon. And we're going to have to find ways to enjoy ourselves in these socially distant, compartmentalized ways. So I'm developing television programming. I shouldn't even call it television programming. I'm developing visual content to share with people that way. I plan on having some parties online. And, you know, bringing people together just in different ways. I think that because it's different now, and we're just going to have to accept that.
I think the government has made clear, I mean, not just in the United States, but every country, that the arts are not a priority. You know, I mean, that, you know, they're not going to go out their way to save the arts. So we're pretty much on our own. Well, we've always been on our own.
We've always been on our own.
But
so it's nothing new for us.
But I don't know, does anybody else feel like a different or a new excitement towards what could be or what can be or what will be once we come out of this stagnation that everybody has to be in, just physical stagnation that everybody has to be in with social distancing and all that other type of stuff? I mean, I made the joke all the time that I was going to retire because I didn't want to be DJing in a club and losing my dentures. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm coming a certain age. But I've gotten a new excitement about everything during the course of COVID. So many things have actually happened during COVID through virtual means and for me, just personally. And I know it can't just be me. So I've gotten a new excitement about it. It's just like, I'm ready to go. I done got my youth back again. I'm ready to, you know, hit this with a whole new vigor now. So, I mean, is that just me or is it anybody else feeling?
I would argue, hey, what's up? Real quick. What's up?
Go ahead.
Hey, Celeste.
Hey, Eric.
I would argue that we're saying that now because we're in this. I don't think that this is something that is going to last forever. I don't think this is great. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I think it's a different kind of excitement, but I think once we get back to the physical proximity that we're used to, we're going to realize how much we missed it. So I think we're doing this now because it's the only option. I can't wait to get back into a club and dance and be around people and feel the heat, feel the sweat, and feel the speakers bouncing. You know what I mean? This can't replace this computer can't replace.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, but I think that the way clubs are built, and the way people interact in public spaces is going to change forever.
I disagree with that. If you think about the pandemic of 1918, it lasted 3 seasons actually. You know, and then you had the Roaring 20s. You know what I mean? So you had this excitement that came out of a pandemic. I don't think this is going to be something we're going to live with the rest of our lives. I think we'll look back on this 5, 6, 7 years from now, and we'll be back in the club again.
I sure hope. I
hope so.
I hope so too.
I also definitely think the Celeste question. I think a lot of the excitement that happens is around people who also has thought about, like Marsha was saying, those different revenue streams, those different ways of branding what they do. When I look at all the virtual DJs who like this virtual world has definitely leveled the playing field, right? Like there really isn't one DJ above the other because the internet is free for everybody. But what stands out is those who really pushes a brand. And I think from, a lot of what we see, even like on the younger circuit, it's those who really can start to navigate in this space. I think is one that's going to be excited about the things that come ahead, as opposed to those who are sitting around kind of waiting for things just to be back to normal, if you will. Because I don't think it's going to go back to quote unquote normal. There's definitely going to be new norms, just like when after 9/11 with the whole taking off the shoes at the airport and the bagging of the liquids. There's going to be some rituals that are going to be different moving forward after COVID that they're going to be in place. And I think it's really about accepting new norms and creating new brand and
Exactly.
and branding yourself accordingly, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And with that being said, do you have any closing words? Think about them, but I'm going to shout out first our folks who came in from New Jersey, Miami, of course, all of Chicago. Where else? Brazil. Thank you for coming out. We're going to do a quick wrap up with the last few words, and then I'm going to do some housekeeping. But yeah, let me know, Vince, Marshall, and Duane, your last closing words. And this is a podcast, by the way, as well, folks. So,
well, first of all, everybody just mentioned too where you can be found. Vince, I definitely need you to mention the fundraiser that you have right now for homeless kids.
Oh, okay. So I'm working with Vic Mensa and a couple of other people to raise awareness about youth homelessness in Chicago. And I'm easily found on Facebook. There's a sleep out happening tonight. Vic Mensa is going to sleep outside, all night tonight with a group of friends. And I plan to sleep out later on in the year. I'm gonna wait for it to get manly cold. But to raise, it's all meant to raise awareness while we have a choice of where we're sleeping tonight. A lot of young people, teenagers in Chicago and other cities, they don't. And we're raising money for a place called Covenant House that gives these kids a place to sleep. And there are places like that all over the country. And, it's a terrible situation when you're a teenager and you're homeless. So we're trying to raise awareness for that.
Okay, just follow Vince Lawrence. Go to his pages. He's all over social media.
You can find me at Facebook.
Vingo Slang on Instagram, Facebook.
And I will I'm putting this in the chat, slangmusicgroup.com.
I am myself. I'm working several things, house music related. Definitely follow a project that I'm working on called the Chicago Black Social Culture Map. We have a Facebook page and a social media page. That's what they call Chicago Black Social Culture Map, where we're trying to document every aspect of Chicago social culture from the blues era and particularly the house era. I'm also working. I'm a new appointed member of the Frankie Knuckles Foundation, and I have some things that I'm working with in terms of that with the Stony Island Arts Bank that's coming up. So definitely be tuned. DJ Duane Powell, Sound Rotation is my Instagram handle and my Twitter handle. And I don't know, Marshall, what are you up to? He's coming from Best Buy, y'all.
Yeah, I came from Best Buy. I finished the new 10 City album 2 months ago. I think that's coming out in April.
Wow.
I finished the Curtis McLean EP. Curtis sang "Move Your Body."
Right.
Also, I did a remix on Katy Perry called "Smile."
Oh, it's an amazing record. That's an amazing record.
Also did a remix on Alicia Keys, Armin Van Helden. Another one on the week. Who am I forgetting? Well, I've done a lot of stuff. This is like my busiest year ever. I did a lot of work. So,
And that's the thing I think what Celeste was getting to was that I think COVID has made us have a lot of time to work.
yeah, well, I didn't really have time to produce. I mean, the last 25 years, I've been gigging every weekend, and like, you know, I come back from the weekend and I'm crashed, man, for the whole week until the next weekend. You know, and the cycle starts all over again. I'm too pooped to make music. So this year, when the lockdown happened, I just right into making music. You know, it was right on time. Bought a new computer. I was stuck in England, and I just wrote song after song after song, and I remix after remix. I just did, you know, I just worked and worked and worked, and you know, it was like really organic. I said, oh wow, I really don't want to DJ anymore. So
No, you have
you know, I got stage.
this music has to keep us
Goes
going.
in.
Yeah. Like I think
All right, so I'm gonna drop a few things in the feed.
While he's doing that, I'm going to say this, that all the music that y'all are working on, it sounds amazing. I love all the creativity. All of the music that everyone is creating, all of the work is going to just have this archive for the future generations. So it's just not for us, you know? I will say in closing that on behalf of Eric Williams and the Silver Room that we positively thank every single person that showed up tonight. And you can stay tuned to our Instagram at the Silver Room and silverroom.com, thesilverroom.com, to check out this recording as a podcast. And if you really want to, you know, represent house music, we have Black canvas tote bags that say Chicago created house music. We have the same design in black crew neck shirt and a crew neck tee. All that can be found at the shop or online. And you can always, if you're in Chicago, you can also have this new service that we offer. It's a free local delivery Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., where you order your stuff online, you press local delivery, and we have partnered up with a Black-owned delivery service, and you don't always have to do Amazon, you know what I'm saying, to get all your stuff from the Silver Room. So they will deliver it straight to your doorstep. And what else? We are still open. The shop is still open on 1506 East 53rd Street in the Hyde Park. And again, all the links are in the chat, from the legacy link to all the links for our resumes and tastemakers. And
Oh, hold on, let me do that.
we're gonna wrap it up. We're always excited to show our audience new and exciting things. So I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. Yeah, let's give everybody a round of applause. Thank you so much for coming out. Peace, peace, peace. And
Hey, before we leave, can I say one thing?
who's that? Yeah.
Hey, I just want to say one thing before you sign out. Hey, Vince.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you for teaching me what you taught me. I'm not sure if you remember who I am, but I was in your studio when you was on North Avenue.
Okay.
I met you
underneath the Payless shoe store.
Yeah, I met you through my cousin Keitham. I used to be down. I ended up moving in, and I ended up staying at the studio down there too. Always with you. We used with Evie at the time, and that's how I know you. You taught me a lot. You actually was teaching me how to engineer, and you was about to make me your assistant engineer. And I remember I had a place to stay, but I ended up moving in at your studio.
I mean, we try to do what we can when we can.
Yeah. And you guys, you know what? Vince ended up firing me. I'm gonna tell you why Vince ended up firing me. Vince was teaching me how to use the MPC 60. That was my first time using the MPC 60. Vince taught me. And Vince, you was working on a commercial at the time. I want to say it was Tropicana. I want to say it was Tropicana Gold Orange Juice. I want to say it was that commercial. but you was working on the commercial at the time, and the day before I accidentally erased that out of the MP60.
That would get you fired.
that got me fired. I erased the commercial because he just mixed everything down. Whatever he did in MP60, I completely erased everything. Vince fired me that day, and I have been living down there for like at least about 3 or 4 or 5 months. I remember the big tub upstairs. Oh, I love that tub. I wish I could get a bathtub like that.
Did you see the devil dog?
Which one? Which dog are you talking about?
That dog, man. That devil.
Oh, my Doberman, you mean?
That gigantic Doberman, man.
Warlock.
The one that wanted to eat people. No, that was a scary dog, man.
I had well, we were living in Humboldt Park before the gentrification.
Wow. Warlock. Well, on that note,
he was an awesome dog.
House music, and Warlock was there to witness it. Yeah. So yes, y'all, this was beautiful. I, for one, can't wait to hear more music. I will definitely revisit all the archives in the crates. I thank you, Mr. Powell, Mr. Lawrence, and Mr. Jefferson, and of course, as always, Mr. Williams. And we can't forget our amazing sound team, Angie and Sensei, for handling the chat and the tech. And with that, you guys, stay safe, stay healthy, health is wealth. Stay curious, stay vulnerable, and let's all be there for each other, yeah? And always jack your body, no matter where you at, all right? Cool.
All right.
Thank you so much, y'all. Peace.
Take care.